Hello YouTube and welcome to our series of Proxmox Backup Server. So in this video we'll continue this series and we'll go more in depth about Proxmox Backup Server. So are you ready? Let's get started. So first thing first, so as you have seen on my last video, I showed you how to install and configure our Proxmox Backup Server. So let's log on and see some other options that we can actually tweak. So here I am on the interface of my Proxmox Backup Server. So let's log on using the credential that we have entered during the installation process. Okay. So when you first log in, you will see this message of no valid subscription. Okay. So here there is notification that we do not have a valid subscription for this server. Okay, so actually we can buy a subscription from the Proxmox website. So I will put a link below the video to show you where you can buy those subscriptions. And actually if you hit OK here and you go to the subscription section on the left panel, you will find that there is an option to upload a subscription key. Okay, so here normally when you buy a subscription, you will get a key that you can enter here in order to get a valid subscription. But as we don't have a valid subscription, in order to do updates, we can actually get rid of the message that was shown on the beginning. So if you want to get rid of the message, so it's pretty easy. You go to the administration section and you will see there is actually a tab called repositories. Okay, so if I click on it, you can see that here we have the enterprise repository is enabled, but there is no active subscription, and this repo is the last one here. So you can see here there is a repo called PBS for Proxmox Backup Server Enterprise. It's enabled, but we don't have a valid key, so let's disable it. So I will click on it and I will hit this button here, disable. So now as you can see, the Proxmox Backup Server repository is disabled, but we can actually add another repo which doesn't require subscription, and we can use it to update our server. So let's do that. So in order to do that, we click on this button here, add. We still have the same message, so we click on OK, and now you can see that we can choose from the repositories a repo called no subscription. Okay, so if you see the description, this is the recommended repository for testing and no production use, but we are here just testing on our home lab, so we can just add this repo here. Okay, so here we go, the repo has been added and enabled by default. Okay, so now we can move on to the update section in order to update our Proxmox Backup Server. So in order to do that, we click on the tab just before the repositories tab, update. So now you can see the different Debian packages and the version number. Okay, we can do a refresh in order to refresh that, and here of course it will update the package list. Okay, so the task is okay, so we are finished, and we can do now an upgrade. Okay, so we can do an upgrade and we get this window here. Do you want to continue? So all we have to do is to press the Y key on our keyboard and the upgrade will be performed. So as you can see now, Okay, so you can see the upgrade has been finished. We can get rid of this window and everything is okay now. Okay, so let's move on to other things. So if you go actually up on this left panel, you can see that we have a section called access control. So if I click on it, you can see that I have only the default user created by the Proxmox Backup Server installation, which is root. But of course you can add another user if you want. So let's just click on this button here, add, and we can add another username. For example, let's add mine, Amina, and the realm is actually the authentication method used by Proxmox. There are actually two authentication methods, and here we can choose from the Proxmox Backup Authentication Server. Okay, and here of course we can enter any password we want. Okay, we can also set the expire time and of course enable it and disable it. Okay, so here I have added just one user, just to let you know that you can add as many users as you want, and of course you can set permissions also to this user or remove it or set up two-factor also authentication if you want. But as it's just a beginner review for actually our Proxmox Backup Server, so we will just stay here. Okay, so now let's do some real actually backup and restore on our actually Proxmox server. So here I will leave actually our Proxmox Backup Server and I will go back to my Proxmox actually server. So this is it. So this is the Proxmox virtual environment. So in order to do backups, we have actually two methods or two locations where we can do that. We can do it directly on the VM or the container that we want to backup. So I will show you now how we can do it. So for example, let's say that we want to backup this container here 106. So I will click on it and you can see there is a section here called backup. So I will click on this section backup. So I have already performed a backup here, but this backup actually, as you can see here, reside on the storage. This is a local backup on the same server. So if I click on the storage here, you can see here the name of the storage. It can be local or it can be, as you can see here, PBS01, which is actually our Proxmox Backup Server that we have set up on my last video. Okay, so now we will actually perform a backup, but this time not a local one, but a backup that will actually reside on the Proxmox Backup Server, which is normally, as I told you, should be installed on different machine than your Proxmox virtual environment. So let's do that. So as I told you, all you have to do is to click on this button here, backup now. Here we go. So make sure to choose the storage for your Proxmox Backup Server. So I will not choose this one, which is local. So I will click on this arrow button here and choose my PBS01, which is our Proxmox Backup Server. And of course here I have the total amount of available space storage. So I will choose the storage and of course the mode. So we have different mode. We have snapshot, suspend, stop. So snapshot can be actually allows us to do backup while the machine is running. We can also suspend it and stop it and do the backups. Okay, so I will just keep the default, which is snapshot. Protected, you can choose that or leave that as you want. And of course there is compression by default here, which is ZSTD, which is fast and good, so we will leave it. So let's perform our backup now. So let's backup, and of course here you will see the process that is beginning. So here we go. We have some info here. We have some upload to a directory, temporary directory, okay? And if we move on to our Proxmox Backup Server, you can see just at the top there is a task which shows us actually the task that is running. So let's click on it. And we can see here the task. So now the task has been finished actually, because I have container that has just a small amount of disk space, okay? But normally here you will see the task that has been running, okay? So let's go back to our Proxmox virtual environment, and we see that the task is okay. So I will get rid of this window here. So here it doesn't show us the name of the backup, simply because here the storage is pointed to the local one. But if we choose our Proxmox Backup Server, you will see this is the one that we have just performed, and we can confirm that if we go actually to our Proxmox Backup Server. So let's go to it, and let's go actually to our data store. So normally where actually all the backup will resides. So if I click on it, and if I go to the content, you will see that my container, which is number 106, has been actually backupped to this data storage. So everything is okay. We have performed our backup, okay? So you can see here it's some blobs which are storage space in our file system here. So the backup has been performed on actually the Proxmox Backup Server. So this is the first thing, or the first method that you can use in order to do backups, okay? There is also another method, but this time you will not have to go actually to the virtual machine or container directly, but you go to the data center of your Proxmox virtual environment. Here we go. So let's click on it. There is also a section called backup. So if I click on this backup here, you can see that I have a button here called add. So this add button, if I click on it, it will allows me to create actually what we call a backup job. So this backup job, we can actually back up a lot of virtual machines, a lot of container, or we can actually back up everything, okay? And the most beautiful thing is we can schedule that, okay? But me, just for testing purposes, I will just choose one. So here you will choose your node. The storage, keep in mind to choose the one corresponding to your Proxmox Backup Server. So in my case, I have to choose it. So it's called, so this is PBS01, which is my Proxmox Backup Server. So I have to choose it. I have also to schedule it if I want. So let's say that I want to back up this virtual machine or actually container every Sunday on 1 AM. So I can do that also. Selection mode includes selected VMs. Okay, so I can choose the VMs that I want from the list below actually. So let's choose, for example, this which is actually a container, not VM, but we can choose a VM if we want. So I will choose this container which has an ID 149. Okay, so everything is okay. And here the notification mode, we can leave the default, or we can choose something else like auto and email. If you have configured a notification system, you can also add it here. You can also perform send mail to if you want. And of course the compression by default is ZSTD. And the mode also, we have different modes here: snapshot, suspend, stop, corresponding to the way that you want to perform your backup. Okay, and we can also, there is a retention here. So this retention allows us to keep all the backups or keep the last ones keep daily, keep monthly. So I will here choose just to keep the, for example, the last 3 ones. Okay, for me it's pretty easy. So this is the most actually parameters that you can do during the backups. And of course here the name of your backup will be something like that: cluster name, guest name, node, and VM ID. Okay, and we have here some tweaks for advanced users. Okay, so now our backup job is ready to be executed, so let's create it. So this is the last one. So as you can see here, it will run every Sunday on 1 AM, but you can also run it right now if you want. So let's click on it, and you can see here there is a right now button that you can click if you want to write the job now. Of course you can also edit it or get a job detail if you want, if you click on this job detail. Okay, so let's run it now and see if we can see it on our Proxmox Backup Server. So I'll run it. Start selected backup job now. Yes, I want. Here we go. So now let's move on to our Proxmox Backup Server and see if there is a task, and indeed the task has been executed. Okay, and we can take a look at it if we reload actually our data store, and indeed this is our container which has number 149 has been actually back up to our data store here on my Proxmox Backup Server. So you can see how easy it is. You can perform backup of any virtual machine or actually container, in this case using our Proxmox Backup Server. And of course if you go to your container that we have actually just backup, which is 149, and if we go to our backup, you can see the name of the backup, but always you have to change here storage from the local to your PBS. And here we go, you can see the backup that we have just performed, the size of it. Okay, and after that we can actually perform a restore. So let's say that we want to restore this Alpine container. So the process is the same for virtual machine or container. So all you have to do is to go also to your backup section to select the name of the backup that you want to restore. So I will choose this one, the last one, and all I have to do is just to click on this restore button here. Here we go, we have the source, the storage also, because here we want to restore it from our Proxmox Backup Server to actually our local storage, the container ID, the bandwidth, and also everything here is easy to see. Okay, so all I have to do is to click on this restore, and of course I have this message: this will permanently erase current container data, mount point volume are also erased. So I will hit yes, and the process has begun, as you can see here. So the task is okay, our machine has been restored. So sometimes you have actually to turn off the machine before doing the backup, because if the virtual machine or the container is running, sometimes the restore will not be performed. Okay, and one of the beauty of Proxmox Backup Server, and you can also restore a file, not the whole virtual machine or container. So if I click on this backup here, there is also a button called file restore. So if I click on it, I can choose to restore just an individual file. Okay, so you can download it and just restore it individually to your actually running container or virtual machine. So you can see how easy it is to use all the different options offered by Proxmox Backup Server in order to restore any virtual machine or container, and that using also what we called deduplication and compression. Okay, and all the tasks that you have seen can be also monitored live if you go back to actually your Proxmox Backup Server and you hit this data store. If you go to the summary, you can see here the different windows or graphs that allows us to monitor, for example, here the transfer rate, the input output live, so you can see all the input output operation per second that we have performed here, and the time also. So of course the speed of the backup and the restore will depend on the bandwidth of your network. Okay, so you can take a look here to see if you get any problems or delays during the operations of actually backup and restore. Okay, so that was just a brief review of the backup and restore operation using the Proxmox Backup Server. So if you found this video helpful, don't forget to give it a thumbs up, subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss any future content. And of course, if you have any suggestion for future video, drop them in the comments below. As always, I hope it has been informative for you, and I want to thank you for viewing. Bye bye.